Albright with AVNation in the HDBaseT booth. To today's Tech Talk, talking about pain points that integrators face and how we solve them. With us today from A10, Kim.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I've been with A10 for about 5 months, and I was previously with a commercial AV integrator in the Dallas area for about 6 years.
All right, Daniel.
Thanks, Tim. So I'm Daniel Shwartzberg, Director of Customer Experience at the HDBaseT Alliance.
I'm Tom Devine. I'm with AV Pro Edge, and I'm the Director of Marketing. Thanks for having me, Tim.
Yep.
I'm Ariel Marcus from M Solutions, and thanks for having me.
All right, very good. All right, Kim, we'll start with you on this since you're the most recent integrator on the panel. When we're talking about video distribution, what are some of the biggest pain points that integrators face today?
Well, where would you like to start?
At the beginning.
There's absolutely a million. I mean, it can be anything from dead equipment or bad cabling. It can be maybe a contractor was supposed to set up some conduit for you and that didn't happen. The list is endless. One of the processes that has to be done is, as an integrator, there needs to be a well-defined scope,
okay.
Defining exactly what is going to happen as far as the job, and understand what the customer is wanting, and what your equipment is going to do to fit this situation, and make sure that the two mesh up. Because if there's not a scope, then there may be some unmet expectations there, and everybody's unhappy, and it gets very ugly. So.
All right, Tom, let's take some of these apart one by one.
Sure. So I agree, right? I mean, with a question like that, it's endless what could potentially go wrong. But I think with the way video distribution and the way that the future has been, or the way that technology has been driven and pushed, I think there are some really key pain points that we can really discuss, as in everybody's moving to 4K. And when you go to 4K, you can run into some problems. You have to have a pipeline, you have to have an infrastructure that's ready for 4K, and above all of that, you have to make sure the infrastructure is because of bandwidth, so data rates, right? 4K compared to 1080p, we're sending 4 times more data. Sending that through the same pipe isn't always an option, right? So redoing your infrastructure, making sure each one of your products that you have in line is working for 4K is never been more important. What can happen with 4K also is that every single 4K projector or TV or whatever has a different EDID. And this EDID that you may have heard on forums and message boards, as if you're really looking at 4K, it causes headaches for every single integrator. And so managing the EDID and staying on top of that knowledge and knowing about EDIDs, how they affect the system, and how you can manage the EDID to distribute that 4K all around, that really helps an integrator out.
Real quickly, define for folks if they're not familiar with what EDID is.
Sure.
What is it?
So it's an ID, EDID. It's an identification that the TV sends to the source. So we think a source sends something to a sink, right? It outputs the video signal, audio-video signal, and goes to the display or the projector. Well, a display and projector all have an EDID. It's an ID that tells the source what to send them. So maybe a Sony TV will say, send me 4K, I can handle 8 channels of audio, I can handle HDR, send me that signal. Well, another 4K TV may say, send me 4K, but only give me 30 frames per second, and also don't send me HDR because I'm not ready for it.
And only send me 2 channel, right?
Exactly. So what happens when you use that first EDID on another display that's not ready for it is you're going to have no picture. And if you have an installation, you set it all up, and you have no picture, you go, where do I start? So managing EDIDs, I think, is a huge point right now for a lot of integrators. They don't quite understand, and as they do understand it, they're realizing that the installation of their job is becoming much, much easier.
All right, Ariel, we've identified a couple issues that you and your company can solve. M Solutions does a lot of testing equipment. So how do we take the EDID problem right here, or the dead equipment, and make sure that the cabling is correct with HDBaseT?
So today there are a lot of ways to understand and analyze the category cables, to analyze the EDID, and to do some manipulation over it. I think one of the pain points today is actually, if we're taking everything, is interoperability. Interoperability means that, okay, how I define the EDID between source and sink, how I define the category cables that will work for me, how I define that an HDBaseT port of a receiver will work with an HDBaseT port of a transmitter, with applying all the different 5-play elements. So today, we are providing a TAM solution the ability to have an X-ray into the category cables, into the HDBaseT port. We're able to analyze the transmission line. We're able to provide information about interoperability, what are the 5-play elements supported. We enlarge the coverage, for example, with having the ability to analyze the category cable. Okay, will this category cable, there are many of them on the market today, CCS and CCA cables, like an aluminum copper-coated aluminum or steel that will fail transmission. So interoperability and fitting those different category cables according to the category cable standardization, or having the HDMI cable. You know, one of the pain points that I'm seeing today that will increase in the coming future with the spec 3.0 of the HDBaseT, we're supporting the 18 gig. We're supporting the 4K60 444. Now, what about the HDMI cables? Will these cables be able, all of them will be able to carry the HDMI, the 4K60 444? And we provide also a solution for that.
Right.
Those installation must be tested. Interoperability must be kept, otherwise it's the major pain point. Everybody is looking for a way to analyze everything on the way from a sink to a source, and there is no really a clean and easy way to understand it today.
All right, Daniel. Go ahead. Yeah.
So one critical thing on the cable, there is cabling out there that does not meet the standards, and typically it's a cheaper quality cable. So possibly the integrators tried to save some money or whatever and gone with the cheaper cable. And usually it ends up costing you a lot of time when it's not pulling that EDID back, or it's not, or the signal's just totally dropping out. So it's usually never an idea to go cheap on the cables. Just make sure you're buying high quality cables. Make sure they're meeting the specs that are set up for the standards.
Yeah. Daniel, how can HDBaseT and your guys' education initiatives help the integrators kind of troubleshoot these areas and overcome these issues?
So it's an excellent point, Tim, and certainly HDBaseT is all about resolving pain points and not creating pain points. We've talked about interoperability, so certainly the HDBaseT Alliance has its own compliance testing specification. We have a compliance testing facility where vendors of HDBaseT equipment can send their products to us. We will test them, we will make sure they meet the specification requirements. We will list those products on our website, we will list them in our mobile app, and an installer and integrator can basically go online, can take out his phone, he can check to make sure which products support which features, and that helps us to overcome some of the problems of interoperability between different products in the market. HDBaseT prides itself on being an interoperable standard, allowing vendors to pick and choose from, allowing installers to pick and choose from whichever vendors they want. In terms of bandwidth, we had a point raised here about, is there enough bandwidth to support new things like 4K 60 444? Ariel mentioned Spec 3.0, and that's exactly what HDBaseT has just announced. And we've announced the 3rd generation of our standard, which will support 16 gigabit HDBaseT links, the equivalent of 18 gigabits per second of HDMI data, allowing us to transport 4K 60 444 uncompressed. The good news is that Spec 3 and the Valence chipsets that are coming that support Spec 3 are backward compatible to Spec 2 and backward compatible to Spec 1. And we're all about trying to eliminate some of those interoperability issues that people are concerned about. So we're very much focused on making the installers' lives easier rather than more difficult.
So just from a timeline standpoint, you guys have announced the new standard 3.0. when will you start producing chips, and then when will the providers start getting them?
Okay, so the chipsets, of course, are produced by Valens.
Yep.
They just got back 2 weeks ago, straight from the fabrication plant. They got back the new VS3000 chip, the Stello family of chipsets, which supports everything that I've just said, 16 gigabit per second links. We would expect to see towards the end of this year, or at least by ISE next year, so February 2020, we would expect to see products on the shelf supporting Spec 3.0, supporting 16 gigabits per second links. Certainly in terms of market education, you know, as you said, I'm responsible for doing a lot of that. We're already explaining to installers and integrators what is coming in the pipeline towards the end of this year, early next year. They're already beginning to learn about Spec 3.0 and its capabilities. And certainly companies like Ariel's are also focused on providing test equipment that allows them to test that.
And then they'll have to obviously update your equipment as well to meet this new specification.
Yeah, definitely. We're working parallel with the Alliance and with the Valens manufacturing the HDBaseT chips, the new ones, and we will implement it as a modules that will fit to our testers. The target is, once again, to provide a full coverage of the HDBaseT link end-to-end. If we will be able to make sure that installers will use the highest quality infrastructures for HDMI, for category cables, we will avoid a lot of issues, a lot of pain points that they are having today, and they're suffering from.
Tom and actually Kim both, I want to get more into this education thing. Obviously HDBaseT has their website and their resources, and actually HDBaseT certified instructors as well that they don't work for HDBaseT. They work for a manufacturer, and actually I've met a couple that are also integrators as well. Talk for a second about what AV Pro does for you and for your dealers to help educate them on troubleshooting.
Sure, so we have a thing called AV Pro training.
Yep.
You can check us out at avpro.training, it's the website, where we have always hosted Imaging Science Foundation classes, so the ISF. It's a color calibration class, HAA, that's like for acoustics and audio calibration. And so what we've been doing recently is we just recently added AV Pro Academy. And what that is Jason Dustel, he's our trainer, and he goes to the HDBaseT World Conferences. He's a part of, he's on the floor of making sure exactly what's going on with HDBaseT, with our products. And what we do is we have integrators come in to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, where we're from, or we host these classes at our distribution partners around the country. And what we do is we train integrators and techs the exact deep data that you need by sitting in class for a couple days, getting your hands on the actual products, finding out exactly what makes these tick, so that when you get into the field, you can say right away, oh, I'm not going to use this cable, let's re-pull it now. So we'll be on tech support for 5 days trying to figure this out. So they know that beforehand. They've managed the EDID, they've tested the bandwidth, they've used testing products to make sure that they understand what they're seeing, what it means to be in different color spaces, how different projectors, displays react on the different kinds of signals. And we cover all that in our class called AV Pro Academy, which, you know, we would love to have you sign up, anybody sign up for it. Another way that we do it, though, is by hosting a monthly webinar. So we do webinars where we are always trying to push whatever the newest technology is that's out. We'll discuss it, and we'll break it down for integrators. We recently did a webinar with HDBaseT where we talked just about that. So if you get a chance, go to HDBaseT's YouTube page, you'll be able to find that.
All right, very good. Kim, same question. What is A10 doing to help educate the integrators?
Well, we brought in additional field engineers, which, I'm in the Midwest.
Yep.
We've got an additional field engineer on the East Coast, and we got somebody in California now. We're bringing in additional salespeople and resources. All of our equipment supports, EDID. We, maintain our equipment to the highest, try to manufacture to the highest standards to make sure that we're supporting all of these, HDBaseT standards, or the AV over IP, which is, the coming thing. So we do, all of those resources are out there. We're strengthening our sales teams, making sure that we're educating people to, understand these fundamentals. I'll be attending the HDBaseT certification here as soon as possible,
okay.
Adding that to my roster. So.
All right, very good. guys, as we wrap up here, Ariel, we'll start with you on this. What are you seeing and what are you hearing here at InfoComm 2019 when it comes to what the next steps are for distribution inside both residential and commercial when it comes to these integrators and how they're designing the next generation of distribution?
In terms of next generation of distribution, I think that everybody is happy with having those new chipsets from Valens, the HDBaseT, the Spec 3.0. Everybody is looking for that. Everybody is asking us, for example, about testing those, and if we will be able to test it and provide some solution about it. By the way, one of the best things that I think that the HDBaseT Alliance did now is that announcing the Plugfest for the HDBaseT port. This will solve a lot of things in terms of interoperabilities for installers if all of the different manufacturers will come and have the same thing as the HDMI Alliance is doing. They're doing the Plugfest.
Yeah.
Different manufacturer trying the connectivity, seeing that it works. It will be great to have it on the HDBaseT also, between Spec 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, and that's it. We're preparing anyway, based on requirements, to meet the HDBaseT Spec 3.0 and to see how we can support in testing it. As I mentioned, we enlarged already the coverage for HDMI cables. We know today how to say clearly to the installer, this HDMI cable fit a 4K 6444 or not.
Yep.
We're seeing a lot of equipment, Apple TV for example, providing sort of a testing for the HDMI cable, and it's a great need. And we're following the market in order to implement it and provide it.
I'd like to piggyback on that if I can. And the question was, what is really impressed you? And he said the chips, and I agree. I mean, this third level of the HDBaseT chip, this is answering everybody has been saying for the last 4 years. How are we going to get past this 10.2 gigabit? Well, we got to go compression. No compression. It's got to be fiber. There's no way copper can do this. And so Valens and HDBaseT have just shown us at this show that that's not the case at all. Now they're opening up an uncompressed version for 18 gigabits per second, and we will be using fiber for that. So while everybody for a long time thought that there was not going to be a solution, the solution is here now. I mean, that's extremely exciting for me as a manufacturer, for all of the other integrators around here that are, finding that they have customers keeping pushing their data rates, and to see that the HDBaseT Alliance and Valens is also pushing their technology to keep up with those data rates, it means a whole lot for our entire industry.
Oh, very good. Daniel?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that, of course. Thank you very much. You basically stole my answer, though. Certainly, as you walk around the show floor, what do you see? You see a lot of people struggling with compression. You see a lot of people claiming my compression is better than his compression, it's better than her compression. With the Spec 3.0 and with the next-gen chipsets from Valens, that becomes a moot point. Nobody needs to worry about what compression is better when you move to Spec 3.0 with HDBaseT. So certainly we've moved the goalposts way further forward now. And I think definitely in terms of the alliance and in terms of the use cases that this will open up, and in terms of the application that the technology can now be applied to, uncompressed 4K at 60 hertz with 444 encoding, really is going to be a big difference for the industry coming ahead.
All right, good. Kim, you'll have the last word on this. What
I totally agree with you guys. You guys have absolutely covered it.
You guys are too nice to each other. I want some.
Absolutely covered it.
All right, very good. Kim, how do people find A10 or you?
Well, you can come out to our website at a10.com. We make a robust line of Pro AV products, matrix switchers, obviously our KVM products, which are installed in many government installations, meeting those strict government standards for the highest level of security. Or you can come out to a10.com, or we're always available to answer any questions, product questions people have.
Very good. Daniel?
Of course, you can always find us at hdbaset.org, Facebook, Twitter, all of the social media. In terms of some of the training you mentioned, we do installer expert programs at InfoComm and at ISC. If anybody out there is interested in becoming an authorized trainer for HDBaseT, I train people from Atom, I've trained people from AV Pro. We run those courses usually 2 or 3 times a year, so reach out to HDBaseT Alliance at hdbaset.org and we'll be happy to provide you with all the information you need.
All right, Tom?
And you can find me in South Dakota. Come on down, drive out to the middle of the cornfields, and AV Pro will be there. But if you can't make it, we're also at avproedge.com, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, AV Pro Edge, or just AV Pro. Just give us a search, and we're there. As well as make sure you go to our YouTube page. We're consistently putting out chunks of information and nuggets that integrators would be able to use and utilize to make their installations go much more smooth. So we'll see you on the interwebs.
Ariel?
Okay, you can find us on www.m4sol.com. You will see some unique products for HDBaseT, like HDBaseT switchers, and more products about the MS Test Pro, the HDBaseT tester.
All right, very good. Thank you so much. Thank you all so much. For us, for me, for Tim Albright, you can go by the website, AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. You'll find programs like this and a host of other things, including coverage of InfoComm 2019. All that and more at AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv.